Yeah. I mean, we as a company and as individuals, we're heavily invested now into expired domains and building on them. We we started essentially looking at this area because a close friend of mine had seen very good success. He's kind of like been into the expired domains for around 2 years, so he has quite a big head start. But I know he's recently listed and sold a few of his sites for good six-figure sums. So having seen him do that and watched his process, that kind of gave me the confidence to think, right, well, I need to investigate this a little bit further. And I guess you're right. There are lots of pitfalls with expired domains. If you kind of have to ask the questions, then, like you say, you're probably doing something wrong. And there seem to be so many ways that you can fall down with an expired domain. Everything from selecting the expired domain to start with, where you buy it, what the metrics need to look like. There are so many different ways you can get caught out with sites that have been repurposed in the past, and it's not obvious. I mean, you have to really dig deep. For example, I also run a newsletter called Domain Geeks that every Sunday I send out a list of all of the best expiring domains that I found at the GoDaddy auction. And every now and again, I'll put something in the newsletter just to highlight exactly how easy it is to get caught up and become a cropper with these domains. So there was one recently where I found and it looked great on the surface, had great trust flow metrics, had a great backlink profile. I mean, it looked like a stellar domain. And when I looked at the bidding, it was up to $700, which again is a good sign because it means other people have seen it and also see value in that domain. But when I started digging a little bit deeper, and I mean, by deeper, I mean, I literally checked every, or not every, but very much all of the snapshots from Wayback Machine from archive.org. And there was a space of, it's like 6 months or so where somebody had restored the old website and I'd put some links back to a casino on the homepage, but within the existing content. So even if you were just skimming, the website looked exactly the same as it did, a year prior, but it just had these links which have been inserted into the homepage. And that's an example where someone's obviously bidding on that, and they're going to pay several hundred to 1,000 or so for that domain. And I mean, it's been used as part of a PBN in the past. I've never built an expired domain on a PBN, but I would imagine, that's something you probably wouldn't want to get into. You don't know if it's been penalized. You don't have it if it has a Google penalty or anything like that until you connect it up to Search Console. So, I mean, it's so easy to get caught there. And so much so that we've now come to the conclusion that we pass up like 99% of the domains that we see. We look at a mixed variety of metrics, so things like trust flow, citation flow, Majestic, Moses, DA and PA, Ahrefs scores, the backlink profile. We look at the anchor text ratio and profile to make sure that looks clean and natural and hasn't been messed with. And then we do a very deep dive into Wayback. And if we find that just one of those metrics looks a bit off, we just walk away from the whole domain because it's not worth the investment. When you buy an expired domain, you're going to put a ton of content on there, and you might as well wait until you can find the perfect domain rather than taking a chance on something which 95% looks great, but there's something there which doesn't look quite great. So rather than take that chance.
Yeah, there's so many little issues, and I have not. I have looked back at the Wayback Machine. It's a great resource to see
Yeah.
anything obvious, but as you mentioned, if they are pretty sly about it, you may not notice unless you actually read everything, and you may have dozens of different snapshots to go take a look at.
Yeah.
So when you get one of the domains that looks promising, I imagine being in the proper category and topic area is very important. That relevancy is probably one of the top things you look for. You don't want to have a say like a photography site and then put the smokers and barbecue stuff on there. It doesn't make sense, right? So how important is that? And do you just look for certain niches where you're like, hey, we know these are promising categories? Well, I guess how do you look for them? Yeah.
Yeah, relevancy is huge. And I mean, after this call, I can send you over a ton of examples where I've seen people build sites on expired domains that are not relevant, like totally irrelevant. And they have this big spike up in traffic initially because I think Google is playing catch up. They build a site on this expired domain. It's got a great backlink profile, but it's not relevant. And then Google plays catch up, and you see a big drop. Um, I'll go back to golf because I mentioned about the golf keywords earlier, but I'll send you over an example of a golf website that was built on this old website about European business, and they got up pretty quickly to like 20,000 visitors a month in Ahrefs, and then just as quickly came back down to 5,000. So yeah, relevancy is huge, and also being in a category. Predominantly we build product-based websites, so Amazon style review website. So being in a category where you can actually build out a site like that. So sports, home and decor, kind of musical instruments, that kind of thing is very important. You see lots of sites come up that are you couldn't really to keep the relevance, you couldn't really turn them into an affiliate site per se. It might have been a conference website for farmers, for example, and on the surface of it, you think that's great. I'll turn this into a website about gardening or plant seeds or something like that. But when you do dig a little bit deeper into the backlink profile, you realize that the website was actually more about the conference rather than being about farming or gardening or growing plants. And that's a big thing to look out for. Is that the other one which I see tons of things come up for are like coffee shops, for example, where on the face of it, this looks great to build a coffee review website, but when you actually do a deeper dive in there, they've never really had any content about coffee. It's been about, this is the opening times and this is the menu. I mean, there are definite examples where a coffee website does have a blog and it has content about coffee, and that's okay, but you want to stay away from the ones where it's predominantly about the business and not about the topic.
Got it. Once you get the site, do you just treat it like a normal site that you're starting, and then you're more or less shortening or skipping the sandbox? You just put content, promote the site?
Yeah, pretty much. So for expired domains, we have a different keyword research method. And I don't want to give too much away about that because it's a bit proprietary, but essentially, without diving into the details, we have a look at what competitors we think we can outrank with this expired domain based on their existing on the existing link profile, and then we produce our keyword list from there. And then we treat it like a normal domain to start with. We get the content set up. We structure the sites in the same way that we talked about earlier, where we have custom category pages and the homepage feeds in. That's very important on expired domains because the majority of the time, most of the backlinks will be to the homepage. So you need a structured way of funneling that link juice through to category pages and then through to the individual posts. The other thing that we do is we look at what pages have links that are not the homepage. So they may have had, a handful of other pages on the website with good individual backlinks too, that either need to be recreated or redirected to make use of that link juice. So typically you'll find, you need to recreate some pages. The URL structure will almost always be different because it'll have like dates in there. Typically you'll find, so you'll have to set up a redirect from the old URL to the new URL on the website. And then I think a mistake which people may make with expired domains is they set up these pages and then they think, oh well, there's 40 other pages with one link, and I'm not going to go and set up those 40 other pages, so I'll just redirect all those other links back to the homepage. We don't do that. I think you run the error there or the potential there for giving the homepage like a soft 404. Google sees that all these pages have now been moved to the homepage and they have nothing to do with what the old pages used to be. So the way we handle that is we let those pages just 404 until they drop out of the errors in Search Console in the crawl report. And once they've dropped out there, we know they've dropped out of the index, and then we set up the 301 to 404, the 404 to 301 to the homepage redirects. So we're still trying to preserve that juice, but we're not putting the homepage up at any risk of a soft 404 initially.
Okay, gotcha. And I was not even aware that was an issue with a soft 404, but it does make sense now that you explain it.